Today on Steelers Talk, I am sharing my list of quarterbacks that if I were the Pittsburgh Steelers, that I would consider drafting in this year's NFL draft. All right, welcome into the show. It's going to be a fun one. Going to be very in-depth, breaking down all the top quarterback prospects in this year's NFL draft. But before we get into it, let me know down there in the comments section, do you want Pittsburgh to draft a quarterback at some point during this year's draft? If so, let me know which one you want the Steelers to draft down there in the comments section. So before we get into the names here, keep in mind that Pittsburgh is in a win-now mindset, all right? If they were rebuilding, I think they would have fired Mike Tomlin. TJ Watt would be getting shopped right now, not signing an extension, which is what the Steelers plan to do. Cam Hayward would be getting traded. Minka Fitzpatrick would be getting traded, and they would be cleaning house, all right? They'd be starting over. That's not what the Steelers are doing. They're trying to win now. They think that they're close to a Super Bowl championship, and I understand that a lot of Steelers fans disagree with that, but that's what the team thinks. So, with that in mind, young quarterbacks don't win championships. All right, if you haven't made a playoff in your career, the chances that you're going to win a Super Bowl in your first playoff experience is like 0%, close to 0%. There's not many that do it, and it usually takes quarterbacks at least 3 years, unless you're like Patrick Mahomes or Russell Wilson. You get like a great supporting cast like with the Legion of Boom before you even think about competing for Super Bowl championships. So I don't think the Steelers are going to be starting a rookie as their number one quarterback next year. I do not think that's the plan. I don't think it's their plan to trade up for a quarterback. I don't think it's their plan to draft a quarterback in round 2 and start him day 1. I think that if the Steelers take a quarterback, it's going to be somebody that could be a long-term option but isn't going to start in 2025. So first, let's start with the quarterbacks that I think Pittsburgh should avoid. Now, this isn't necessarily me saying that these are bad quarterbacks, right? I actually think a lot of these quarterbacks on this list are actually pretty decent, but I think these are quarterbacks that either it's going to be too high to go get them and the price is going to be too high to get them, or I don't think that they're a fit to play in the AFC North. So you take a look at my list of quarterbacks to avoid. Cam Ward, it's going to take way too much to go up and trade for him. I just don't think that's even a possibility, so, just avoid him. Shadur Sanders, he might drop a little bit, but even then, I don't think the Steelers should trade up for him. Doesn't have a strong arm. I don't think that he would be a particular fit in the AFC North. Same thing with Dylan Gabriel and Max Brosmer. I actually have a round 3 grade on Dylan Gabriel. I actually like him quite a bit in the right offense and with the right team. But in the AFC North, where the conditions are crazy, Dylan Gabriel's noodle arm is not exactly going to be the best fit. So I think that, the time just isn't right for the Pittsburgh Steelers to go round 1 quarterback, all right? Like, if things completely blow up in their face this year, let's say they sign Aaron Rodgers and he sucks and the offensive line sucks next year and the defense continues their deterioration, then in that case, I think they do fire Mike Tomlin and they certainly look to get a quarterback in the 2026 NFL draft. It's a better quarterback class next year, in my opinion. So I just don't think the time is right for the Steelers to consider quarterback, at least not in round 1. And, Gabriel and Brosmer don't have the arm, plain and simply, all right? And neither, in my opinion, neither does Shadur Sanders. I think that all of them have below-average NFL arms, and I think that they would not be good fits with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so for those reasons, I would avoid those 4 QBs. So what's the worst-case scenario? Let me know down there in the comments section. What is your nightmare scenario for the Pittsburgh Steelers at quarterback this year? And this can be draft, this can be free agency, this can be trade. What is the worst case scenario for the black and gold at quarterback this offseason? For me, it's Kirk Cousins. Daniel Jones, those 2 quarterbacks, please do not bring them to Pittsburgh, Omar Khan. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. So YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And when that happens, let me know the worst case scenario for the Steelers at QB next year. So now let's talk some day 3 options for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I'll talk guys that I would take on day 3, and then I'll talk about guys that I would take on day 2. There's 4 quarterbacks this year that I would take on day 3. If it's a 7th-round flyer, I would consider Quinn Ewers out of Texas, all right? And Quinn is somebody that is massively talented physically, all right? Huge prospect coming out of high school for a reason. But there was a reason why this guy was projected to be a first-round pick to start every college football season over the last 5 years and has been decreased in value at the end of the season. All right, he's just so inconsistent. All right, my take on him is that he's got really good arm talent. He can throw with great touch when he wants. He can throw a fastball when he wants. And, when it's right, it looks really good for Quinn Ewers. It just doesn't happen enough. And, at Texas, he had a great O-line, Great weapons around him. I mean, he might have 2 wide receivers go in the first 2 rounds this year that were always open for him, and he had Sark calling his plays. All right, so that's a trifecta of, non-adversity that he had the benefit of playing with, and he was still way too inconsistent at Texas. It's going to be a lot harder for him in the league. I don't think he's going to be a good quarterback. I think he's going to be a straight-up bust. But, hey, 7th-round pick with the arm talent that he has, I would at least think about it if the Steelers haven't taken a signal caller yet. Then in the 5th round, I would consider Jalen Milroe. And Milroe is the type of guy that has incredible physical traits, great rusher of the football, huge arm capable of making big-time throws. And if he hits, he's going to be not only a starter, but a damn good starter in the National Football League. But he needs so much work, man. Like, he is a one-read to run quarterback through and through. Decision-making is certainly questionable. Accuracy is certainly questionable. There's a lot of bad things about Jalen Milroe's game heading into the league. So for me, I think that he might even have a future at running back just because he's got the body type to play running back in the league. If it doesn't work out at quarterback, he can certainly consider that. But if he develops, and he's going to need at least 2 years of development, he's got all the physical tools to be able to do the thing, which is be a starting quarterback in the National Football League. But because, the Steelers would need to wait at least 2 years before he's ready to do that, I think that the earliest I'd be willing to draft him is round 5. Also in the 5th round, I would consider Kyle McCord, and we got a little Ohio State photo of him right there. Of course, he went to Syracuse last year, but McCord had a really good season. He was against really poor competition. He was phenomenal. I think his numbers dipped quite significantly when he had to play tougher competition there with the Orange back in 2024. But he brings good size to the table. I think he's a very smart player. He understands where to put the football in terms of ball placement. He understands which shoulder to throw to. He does have an NFL arm. It's not an elite arm, but it's certainly workable in the National Football League. He does throw with anticipation. I think that, like I said, the intelligence, he does a really good job recognizing blitzes, which is something that's a little rare for college quarterbacks. And then I think the playmaking instincts are a little bit there as well. He's not the most athletic guy in the world, but he does have that ability to make some stuff happen outside of the pocket and out of structure. I don't think the athleticism is great. He does have a longer release, in my opinion. And then he does have a big turnover issue. He led the country last year in turnover-worthy play percentage. So lots of interception opportunities. He's going to have to really rein that in. And because of that, I'm not sure if he's a Tomlin type of quarterback. So I could have included McCord here on my list of just avoid them because Tomlin likely won't like the high turnover-worthy play percentage here. But at least for me, I like the intelligence. I like some of the accuracy stuff that he shows. I think he has an NFL arm. I think that he's going to be probably a pretty decent backup in the league. So because of that, I would draft him in round 5. Then in round 4, I would take Will Howard out of Ohio State. And Howard's intriguing because during the season, I think that his film wasn't all that great. But then when he got into the college football playoff, he really took it to a whole nother level. So that tells you that he got better throughout the 2024 season. So there is reason to hope, but there is still plenty of cons to his profile as well. I think that he is too much one read to run type of quarterback at times. He doesn't mentally process information all that well, at least not at this point in his journey. His pocket presence is abysmal, in my opinion. Playmaking instincts, if he's outside the pocket, he's looking to run. Accuracy has certainly had its ups and downs throughout his college career. And then he throws short of the sticks on third down a lot, all right? And it's like on his first read. So I don't know if Ohio State just asked him to complete a pass and then punt because their defense was so darn good. Last year, of course, they won the national championship, but situational awareness wasn't phenomenal. But Howard has a strong arm. He can throw with nice touch down the field. He's got a really good deep ball, and when he's letting it rip, man, like he's got the tools to potentially be like a mid-level starting quarterback in the NFL. He just needs to develop the rest of his game, in my opinion, and I think that that's worth a 4th-round pick, maybe even a late 3rd-round pick if you are the Pittsburgh Steelers and you really like his fit in your offense. So coming up next, my top 2 Steelers quarterback draft targets this year. These are guys that I would take on day 2. Because, of course, I don't have anyone that I would take in round 1. But before I reveal those 2 quarterbacks, if you guys want a Steelers beanie, you want to stay warm this winter, of course, spring is right around the corner, but there's still some cold months there in Pittsburgh. We all know that. You can go chatsports.com/beanie to pick up this really stylish Steelers beanie on sale with our friends at Fanatics today. Also, if you use our link, chatsports.com/beanie, Fanatics will send us part of the proceeds with every purchase that you make. So you can get this for like $20 right now. That is a phenomenal deal in my opinion. Get yours today. Go to chatsports.com/beanie to get a new Steelers hat in your arsenal today. So day 2 draft targets, all right? Jackson Dart I would take in round 3. Not round 2, not round 1, round 3. All right, and I think that Jackson Dart is somebody that reminds me a little bit of Jalen Hurts when he was coming out, where he's got some significant issues he needs to work through, but he does have the ability to potentially become like a middle of the pack starting quarterback someday with great competitive toughness and can be the leader of your locker room. I think he brings great size to the table. I think he's got a good NFL arm. He can throw with some nice accuracy, especially down the field. He's got a great deep ball with great touch on there. He's got flashes of anticipation on his film, which is something you want to see. I love his competitive toughness. I think Tomlin will really fall in love with that. And he is a plus rusher just like Hurts is, but the footwork and pocket presence are not very good at all. I think that his mental processing can certainly get stuck in place where he's looking at the first read, and if it's not there, he panics. And a lot of times that leads to bad decisions, especially in clutch moments, which is not something that I love about him. But I don't think he's like a superstar level upside type of guy, but I think he could be a mid-level starter with his set of skills. And my pro comp is that he's diet Jalen Hurts, all right? Like, I'm not sure if he's ever going to get to the point where Hurts is, because I don't think he's ever going to get the roster that Hurts has gotten the benefit of playing with there in Philadelphia. But, Hurts came into the league with his set of issues, and he has fixed those issues, over the course of his career with hard work and all these different things. And Dart has the opportunity to do that as well. He's got an NFL arm. He throws with good touch down the field. He's got a very similar profile to Hurts. And because Hurts has succeeded in this league, the blueprint does exist for a guy like Dart to have success in this league. So I would take him in round 3 if I were the Steelers, but no earlier. The only quarterback I'd take in round 2 is Louisville quarterback Tyler Shuck. And by the way, this is only if the very old, who's going to be 26 next year, Shuck, passes, the medical stuff for the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right, but when I look at his film, he's got so much good stuff about him, man. Such a smart player, all right? Such a smart player, recognizes the blitz, the mental processing. He can go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 extremely quickly, and he was forced to do that last year because his O-line at Louisville was god-awful. So he's played with poor offensive line play already in his career. That's something I really like. He's got great size. He's got really good arm talent as well. Super quick release. It's a B-plus NFL arm, which is more than you can say about guys like Shedeur Sanders in this class. Super clean mechanics. If he has to get outside the pocket, he's more than athletic enough to do that. I think his pocket presence is phenomenal, and I think that his anticipation is off the charts as well. So when I look at his film, I think that, just based on the film, he's probably the second best quarterback in this class. But he's super old, all right? 7-year college player. Just really had his breakout season last year on a bad football team with the Louisville Cardinals, so he didn't get a ton of exposure. He's had multiple major injuries, so he's going to be an injury risk. And, he can be a little bit too conservative at times, but, hey, he gets to his check down, which looks to mental processing. My pro comp is that he's diet Joe Burrow. Now, very diet, all right, like negative calorie Joe Burrow, but, like, he plays the game in a similar fashion. And, he's big. He's got the clean mechanics that Burrow has. Anticipation is really, really good. I'm not saying he's Joe Burrow, but he's that similar type of player where he's not the most athletic guy in the world, but he just has a great feel for the game. And, I actually prefer Shuck's tape to Shedeur Sanders's, where Sanders doesn't have a good NFL arm. Shuck does. And Sanders actually has some issues with anticipation. Whereas Shuck, I think, might have the best anticipation of anybody in the class. That is like what he does, and that is something that I really care about when it comes to evaluating quarterbacks. So Shuck is going to be interesting because I think his evaluation comes down to the medical. If his shoulder and his knee issues are just too much for teams to take a risk on, he's going to be a day 3 pick. But I think just based on the film alone, anybody that's watched his film knows how good this guy played at Louisville last year. And if he passes the medical stuff in Indianapolis at the Combine here, heading into the draft, I think he's going to be a day 2 draft pick. So real one roll call here. This is a little bit of a longer one. Obviously, we talked about a lot of different quarterback prospects today. If you're a real one, you made it to the end of today's show, type those real ones in all caps so I know you made it to the end of today's show. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. You guys are the absolute best. Thank you so much for all the support that you give to me, Coop, and everybody that runs this channel here at Chat Sports, all the support that you do. I'll see you guys later, and until next time, here we go, Steelers.